So check that out, guys. As far as what I am playing Halo Infinite, and I just beat the campaign, which is a segue into what our first story is going to be, is that Halo Infinite is finally out, and it's getting great reviews. If you guys remember, the multiplayer dropped earlier on November 15th. The official release date for the Halo campaign was on December 8th, and back in August 2020, if you guys remember, Halo got pushed back a full year because when it launched and everyone saw it, a lot of people were looking at this thing saying it doesn't look right. Something's off. And I'm with Andrew. I'm so happy that they actually pushed this thing back a year, because playing it now, it's beautiful. It's one of the best looking games you get to play out of the Halo series in a long time. And story wise, this is one of the most intimate stories you get to be involved with Master Chief. So you get to meet characters like Echo, who in the trailer you get to see him as the pilot. You get to meet the new AI, which is called the Weapon. So this story kind of develops from there. Andrew, I've beaten it. I know you've started it. So far, how are you liking it as someone that's played all the Halos?
Yeah, because this came out when I was gone in Holbrook, and I've only had enough time to play about like 5 hours of it since I've been back, and that's probably what I'm going to dedicate the rest of my weekend to, is playing that, and I'm loving it so far. I'm absolutely having like a blast. I think it's absolutely great. I think it's super refreshing from, like, I wouldn't have been mad had they just done what Halo does, and okay, like, here's your level, and you're just going through and playing level, and here's like a great story, even though I haven't seen too much story, but if the story's that good, then whatever. But I love what they've done with the world.
How do you think so far, because a lot of people were saying, like, do I need to play Halo 1 through 5? That's a tall order to do, because starting out, because I've beaten Halo 5, but like I was having trouble remembering exactly what was going on, because when you start this game, it is throwing you right at the end of one thing and starting you in the next thing. So I could see, to anybody that hasn't played them, that it'd be maybe confusing. I would definitely say if you've got the time and you're willing to do it, maybe you should play them. None of the games are that long, and they're all on the Game Pass, but I would probably say watch a YouTube video if you're looking to recap the story. But I mean, I don't know. Do you think as a purist it's responsible to go 1 through 5, or can you start with this game and just recap?
No, I think you could either start with this game and just recap, or maybe I would probably just watch a video first, so you at least know. You really, so far as I know, you really only need to know who Master Chief is and Cortana, and like what the Covenant are as like a whole. But they talk about like a lot of the past shit, but the way the game starts, again, we're not going to go into detail on anything, but the way the game starts, I already don't know what the fuck's happening, so I'm just like, all right, well, it's clearly something happened, so there's maybe going to be some flashback stuff later, and I have seen a bunch of flashback shit to, well, this has happened in the series, this has happened in the series, this has happened in the series, and I appreciate it a lot more because I played it, but I think if I watched it, like, let's say, like, a full breakdown of whatever before I play this, I could still get maybe the same gratification. Oh, okay, that's cool, that's her. I just watched her. I know what she's from, whatever.
Yeah, and I like that they're kind of focusing on, like, the Banished as the main people, and it's a lot of throwback to some of the older games. So I would say anybody that's a fan that knows the story, I think it's moving in the correct pace and that you're going to like it. It ends extremely satisfying, so I can't wait for you to get there so we can talk more about that, maybe in, like, a week or so, because we don't want to give spoilers, but so far, man, campaign wise, this thing's getting fantastic scores. So with that being said, I kind of want to move into what kind of keeps the story going, which is the open world and the mechanics. So what have you thought about, because when you start playing the game, it is old school Halo. The first 2 levels are kind of just the same way you played some of the original ones, but then once you get to that third mission, that's when it opens up into the sandbox, and you're going to start running around exploring. So what were your first thoughts kind of seeing that?
At first, I kind of wasn't sure. I was like, man, this is kind of a lot. Like, I don't really know what these symbols mean. And it kind of took me a little bit to figure out, like, what's what. But once I did, I instantly did. I didn't even do the story. I'm 5 hours in, and I haven't done the story. I've been running around the map doing all the other shit because that's how much fun it is. They offer, like, just all this variety of things for you to do. That once it really opens up, I thought it had I actually really liked that they started the first 2 levels as classic Halo. You're just going from A to B, B to C, C to D. Done. Now here's the next one. But once it opens up, I'm like, damn, like, this is badass.
Yeah, it actually, and I think it did it. It's big and it looks beautiful. To me, when I was telling Andrew before, like, it just reminds me of starting to play like a new Far Cry game. Like, you got the map open, you've got a bunch of different things you can go do, because again, you don't have to go do the campaign. The campaign in itself is like anywhere between 8 to 15 hours or maybe closer to 20 if you're doing on a legendary. It really depends on the difficulty, but you don't have to go tackle that first. You can go do a lot of other things. And one of the main kind of questions I've been seeing, like people writing and talking about, is they go, oh, as good as it is, I don't know if Halo needed to be open world. And my response to that is, well, it didn't need to be anything. It could have just stayed Halo. But the fact that it did it beautifully. It did it like
right.
it did it extremely well, because Halo 5 in a lot of people's mind ended on a very bad note, and Halo hasn't been the juggernaut that it should be for Xbox in a really long time. And one of the things that you do when you try to reinvent yourself and your brand, which is what they did, is you've got to give players things that they don't know they want.
Right.
And Halo turning into this open sandbox, nobody expected it, and nobody
I didn't know I wanted it.
Yeah, nobody was asking for it, but I haven't found anybody complaining about it.
I'll say too, for anyone who's worried about being like just beaten to death over the head with like fucking shit to do, it is not like that. It's not like one of those games like Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, The Witcher, where there's fucking just things everywhere to do. Like, you're never bored and there's always something for you to do, but it doesn't feel like, dude, I've been doing all this stuff and I'm 2% done with, like when you play The Witcher, there's so much shit on there that I'm just like, I don't even want to play it. I'm just going to do whatever I can, and then I'll do the story. The rest of that shit's just like, not for me,
yeah,
man.
This feels very maintainable, right? Yeah, it doesn't flood you with too many things. So I want to get into kind of what you can do within the system of Halo Infinite. So what it offers you is the TAC map, and this essentially is what shows you everything that Andrew and I have been talking about. It shows you the bases that you can take over, enemy targets that have that are like legendary enemies that you can kill.
That the
It's
most.
one of my favorite parts, because after you kill them, they give you like an advanced weapon. So like if you kill the guy that's safeguarding like the sword, it'll give you an upgraded version of it. You can also look for Spartan cores, which is the main way to upgrade your abilities. You can find armory chest, which is really cool, because when you find these, it's unlocked cosmetics that you find from the campaign that roll over to the multiplayer. How'd you feel about that? I know that was something you really liked.
Yeah, I was saying, I thought that was cool already. I mean, I have the battle pass, and I wonder if this, I don't want to say invalidates, but kind of helps with that, because there's tons of people like, oh, well, why do I have to get the battle pass to do this? The battle pass takes too long to grind, and I want this cosmetic or that cosmetic. Whereas, I mean, in Halo 2, like I said, there was none. You just change colors. Like, if you play the campaign and you just do some of these natural things, you're going to get those other cosmetic colors and items and everything. So I wonder if that kind of almost invalidates that argument, that they did put something in there in a separate mode that's completely free if you either bought the game or whatever, came with whatever for you to do that adds on to that. And so I thought that was okay, at least they did something and they added something in there, and they could have just not done anything at all.
I thought that was really, really cool. You can find all these skins and all these things for your weapons, for vehicles that, that you don't want. If you don't have the battle pass, it will give you something which is really, really cool. You can also look for propaganda towers, which are these little towers that these grunts are like broadcasting these like insane little propaganda, and it's actually really funny. And then there's like these marine distress calls that you can go find, and you can actually help these guys out because they're in the middle of battle, and then once you beat them, they actually will start following you, and they'll gear up and they'll pick things, and you can take them into further missions. And then one of the big things that they did was the upgrades, which is now something you can find skill points with for the Spartan cores and actually upgrade your abilities, and you find more abilities the further along you go into the actual campaign. So you have the grapple shot, the shield core, the threat sensor, the drop wall, and the thruster. And it's cool because you can take things like the grapple shot, which once you upgrade it once or twice, it'll make its cooldown time go down 40%. And then the
first
next
thing
one,
I did,
the next one is it'll let you stun targets. So now when you are trying to grapple to them, they'll electrocute and they'll stun, and you can hit them. And you can do that with kind of all the other abilities. The only thing I found kind of what would be the right word? I guess a little, not distracting, but kind of hard to do it quickly is switching them is just with the D-pad. So when you're kind of going back and forth from the grapple, it's like you got to hit right and then hit right, up, down, and left to kind of move back and forth between them quickly. Same way with the grenades.
I know. As
if you're not memorizing it, it's like, fuck, which one was the threat sensor? Which one was that? Because it's all about the grapple hook.
Right.
The grapple shot is really the reason how you're going to be, if you're not on a vehicle, moving around as quick as possible. How have you been liking that so far?
I would recommend that if you're jumping in first thing before you get vehicles. upgrade that grapple shot to where the cooldown is, and I use that for most, especially climbing up and over mountains. As far as I can tell, unless you fall down like a pit or something like that, you don't take fall damage. So if you're up
you
high on
don't.
something,
I fell in far as fuck.
Yeah, I just fucking jump from everything and just try to grapple shot and just sling my way across the map. Even when I'm running on the ground, I just aim in front of me because it gives you that fucking forward momentum when you're going, and then you just do that like jump skip and keep going, and that's faster sometimes than riding the warthog or whatever and then getting stuck on a rock and flipping over, have to flip the fucking thing over and doing whatever. I prefer just traveling boots on ground.
And it's another thing, just like the open world. Nobody expected it. Nobody knew that that's what they wanted. People are loving it. The grapple hook is something that is in other games, but Halo, I mean, I don't want to say they've perfected it, but it's easily one of the best feeling, grapple shots I've ever played with.
I thought it was stupid the first time I saw it.
I think everyone kind of did, and then once you start playing it, like, I can no longer imagine playing Halo without it, because
it's great. I love it.
You feel like Spider-Man kind of jumping up these cliffs and stuff, because they have some of the grids that are just like way high. You can get up them without ever climbing up the mountain and just kind of zigzagging your way past it, and it's just extremely fun to do, and it's almost just mandatory whether you're fighting. You can use it in and outside of combat, kind of almost unlike any of these other abilities besides maybe the dash, but it's hands down I think the best new addition they've added to the game. But the last one was good. We talked about the targets, and the last thing they have is the database, which shows all your collectibles, which they still have the skulls. The only thing I didn't like that they kind of did in this is that you can't replay missions. So some of these skulls are in missions that you can't go back to play unless you restart the whole game, because other skulls are actually just on the open world and you can go locate them and find them. But there's 2 in the very beginning and there's 2 at the very end that if you miss them, then you've got to restart the whole game and play.
I found that to be very annoying because I missed the one at the beginning because I misunderstood, I had the wrong guide up for the wrong level, and so I was like, okay, well, I haven't made it to this fucking spot
yet. And you passed it, right?
And I passed it, so I had to redo it. Then I accidentally, because they were saying something about like an elevator or something on the side. You know how you have to ride that thing. I passed it the second time. The third time I fucking did it, there's more than one of those that go up and down, and I got stuck on one that if it goes too high, there's a laser field and it kills you, and it fucking auto-saved right there. So I couldn't get out, and I kept fucking dying over and over. So I had to do it a 4th time before I finally made it to the right spot and got it and went. But I was like, fuck, dude, I just wasted like an hour doing this.
Yeah, if you guys get to it and you guys are looking for the birthday skull, there's a part where you have to get, that's completely off. You have to find this battery, take it to the side, put it into this pack that holds it, and then go find this room that has this mirror that'll disappear. Andrew, I think we were on the headset together. I kept doing it and it would not work. I didn't realize, because the video doesn't say it, that it's actually like the next room over that has like the same thing. So
dude, that second skull was hard to get.
The frustration's still there.
Did you have a hard time getting that one that's on the roof on the second level?
In the blue tower?
Yeah, where you have to like zip line, but if you fucking miss or overshoot, you just fall to your death. I actually
have a video of it, so if we're talking about this now, hopefully that it's playing. Yeah. And again, no, but that's what the point of it. It's supposed to be hard, and they're supposed to be. Ugh. Dude, I'm not. This thing is bad. And so anyway, if you guys are skull hunters, it's going down real slow. So the next thing I wanted to get into was weapons and combat, and we got to touch on this because the multiplayer came out first, and there's a huge difference in the way the weapons function in this compared to the campaign. A lot of people have kind of written off a lot of these weapons in the multiplayer as non-usable. That why are they in here? This thing doesn't work. However, in the campaign, I don't know if they're just a little bit stronger, but they're functional. They actually work. They're worth using. The Mangler alone is a pretty solid weapon. And one of the differences, and you're going to notice this a lot if you guys are playing on the heroic or legendary, and a lot of reviewers are kind of saying this, is you need to know which weapons you're using when you're fighting certain enemies, because certain enemies are going to take differences in the kinetic damage versus like high beam damage and things like that. So it's a night and day compared to what you were doing online than what you're doing in the campaign. So how do you feel about the new guns?
I like in a way that, especially if you're playing on a harder difficulty, they made it so you can't just steamroll through it where the classic, like, all right, well, something's coming up, I'm going to hoard this fucking rocket launcher and then I'll just beat the boss that way or beat this section that way by blasting rockets or whatever.
So overall, how do you like the campaign so far, and how do you like where it's going? Is this,
I'm really loving it, and I can't wait to see more, especially since I haven't had too much like story stuff going on. But I'll say that I love the weapon so far. Like, her AI is I might even say I like her more than Cortana.
I think she steals the show. If you guys are
For
playing this,
sure.
yeah, she's the new AI. She is. I mean, you don't skip those cutscenes. You want to. She's telling. He's moving the story along in terms of the physical action. She's moving it along in terms of like what you need to know and what happened between Cortana and like Atriox and things like that. So every time you guys go do something and she goes to hack something and open up things, like cutscenes start coming on and you're like, oh. Wow, I mean, her role in this is really a lot more than I thought it was going to be.
I feel in a way she's kind of too almost like the character because not the character, the player, for anyone who doesn't understand anything or know anything, she doesn't know about any of the past stuff because it's confidential and classified to her. And so she's finding out a lot of shit on the way, the same way you would if you've never played any of these Halo games too. And I like to, even, it's not too much either, but when you're out doing stuff, she's talking in your ear too, like saying like, oh man, like that guy stinks, and Chief's like, you can smell them. She's like, no, your armor puts out like a thing, and it's not like a very fine tuning aura or something like that. Yeah. But just so you know, you smell good in a way.
Yeah, that was hilarious. So so far, I gotta say the campaign's fantastic. I think this was kind of the cherry on the top of Microsoft's end of the year. I mean, everyone kept saying, they've got Psychonauts 2 that came out, they've got Forza, they've got Flight Simulator. Is Halo going to be good? Because the multiplayer has been beast. Yeah, the campaign's fantastic, and everything you can do in the game is fantastic. And once you beat it, if you miss any collectibles, you can, at the end, it'll let you go back to the world, and you can find all this stuff. So I think this is a great year for them, and Halo was the icing on the cake.
I think now I completely understand why the co-op was delayed.
Yeah, well,
and I don't even see in a way almost how it would work unless you run it like how like some of the Tom Clancy's games do. And those maps are huge, and you can have two separate people going two separate directions. But Halo's like a little bit different, more fine tuned. And that game, in Tom Clancy, you're kind of doing what the fuck ever and just killing people. Whereas this, like, do you kill this main fucking guy without the other person experiencing it too, and now they don't get to experience that the way you could in like a Tom Clancy game? And it's I don't know, I don't even see how the co-op would work without, can one person really be down here on this side of the map while the other person's on the fucking far north side of the map? Because then at that point, what's the point of even playing it, especially if you're not getting stuff together? That almost defeats the purpose of like, I'm not experiencing whatever that person is experiencing. Now I'm having a lesser experience because all the shit's being done for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because if you guys don't know, the multiplayer, generally speaking, in Halos, you can play it multiplayer, and you can have, multiplayers with you, and you can do it. This one only launched with the solo player campaign. The multiplayer got pushed, I believe, until May, is what they're saying. And yeah, because once you see how this functions, like Andrew's saying, it's like, well, can two people just run simultaneously and go do different missions? Because what happens when somebody's in the Wasp? What happens when somebody's riding on the Warthog? Like, is there a limit space? Because I've been thinking the same thing, because I was talking with DeAndre, and I was kind of like, there's a reason why you haven't seen it yet with Elder Scrolls. Like, Elder Scrolls can only do one player at a time, and when they tried to do the multiplayer, they turned it into ESO. Fallout only does one player at a time, and when they do it in multiplayer, they turn it into Fallout 76.
But even those have the issue too. Like, that was a big thing with like ESO or even Fallout, where like, okay, one person's ahead, they fucking kill the big monster, I'm catching up, I missed out on fucking everything, I don't even get to do anything now, I'm just standing there just reaping any benefits that are there, or I miss out on them completely.
And well, even like Far Cry, you can do two players in Far Cry, but certain people can't get all the achievements and stuff like that, so it's like, you have to play the game twice now for both people.
Which I would not want to do that
either. I
wouldn't
want to do either. Or even like Assassin's Creed, when they did their multiplayer, it turned into Unity, and it was a whole separate function. So if Halo can come out in May with their multiplayer campaign, I'm curious of how it's going to function. And if it's, how would you want it to be? Could two players just go do whatever they want, whenever they want? And
I would see the only viable option that makes sense for something like that, especially because in the past Halos, if you get too far ahead of somebody, it warps you to where they are. So you definitely don't want that, especially if someone's trying to do something. Is maybe there's got to be some sort of like 200-foot like perimeter. Like, okay, like once you guys get too far, we're not going to warp you to each other, but you have this much space to work with. But you're going to have to individually, like, I don't see how one person could grab, okay, well, I'm going to grab this fucking armor set at the same time that you're grabbing a power core, but we're both going to get it. That's something you would probably have to individually open, or the same with, like, the audio logs and stuff like that. I kind of can't really fathom how it's going to work, so I know before people were upset, I was a little upset, like, oh, that's fucking lame. Like, I can't believe you can't figure it out. But now that I've actually played it, I completely understand why, because I can't even wrap my head around how it would work. And that's the only thing I could think of is, okay, well, there's got to be some sort of distance gap. We're not going to warp you to each other, but you can't go any further from your other player than this.
Yeah, it's going to be something to see, and I hope they kind of do like a multiplayer trailer before it comes out so we can kind of see how some of those functionalities are going to work, because, yeah, the whole time I'm playing it, I'm like, what would two players be doing right now? And so, I don't know. It's going to be a tough nut for them to crack, but if they can do it, and again, do it well, which I have no reason to suspect they wouldn't. Their multiplayer came out was awesome. Their campaign came out was awesome. I feel like they can do this, and we're going to figure out real quick how two-player sandbox is going to work. And if they do this right, this will be how things moving forward will start doing it.
Yeah. I mean, that it could be like the RE4 effect, where RE4 figured out how to get that third-person camera. If they can figure out how to get a two-player campaign that's on this big-ass map to work together, you might see other games forward taking a page out of that and be like, okay, they did it like this. We're going to do it similar now, and just get a bunch of that.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to say was just like, if you guys are going to play it, like, I don't want to say tips, but like just something you should do is make sure you guys go after the FOB bases, the forward operating bases. They're kind of these things you can go and take over, but you can instantly fast travel. That's one thing I don't think a lot of people knew, is you could be in the middle of a fight, as long as you're in the open world, and you can fast travel instantly. It doesn't delay you. It doesn't say, oh, enemies are around, can't fast travel. So the more of these things you have, the more you get to, kind of explore the map in a quicker pace, but also you get what's called Valor every time you do certain missions, and Valor unlocks what you can summon when you guys are at these FOB bases, which are going to be your Warthogs. Like, I'm up to the Wasp right now. You can summon different guns when you're at these bases. You can get grenades. You can get different Marines to follow you. So I thought that was actually a really cool thing to do. So the base wasn't just like a base to travel to. It's this like point of operation where you can start summoning your vehicle, redo all your weapons, and get a crew with you to actually go out and explore. So that'd be one thing I'd say to do first before you guys do anything else. Because you can go find all these lockers and all these Spartan cores, but once you get into Valor and me and Andrew were talking earlier, and you get like the Wasp and you can go fly to them, it's a lot easier than trying to do all, like Dante was doing it all in the very beginning, running around, which is fine, to each their own. I think my buddy Corey was doing it too. But if you just do what you got to do to get the Valor up to the Wasp, or go still Banshees, then it's going to be a lot quicker.
That's what I'm going to say, dude.
That'd be my only tip. Because when Andrew came over, I was wasping it around, and I'm like, dude, this is just, I wish I would have done this a lot sooner. So that'd be really the only tip I'd have if you guys are doing it. But overall, the last thing I just want to get into, and again, this will be a bigger episode, but we got to talk about Halo, and a lot of people are asking, is this Game of the Year? If this would have came out this year and would have qualified for a lot of the Game of the Year awards, would it have won? And on a different question, if it qualifies for 2022, is it Game of the Year then? So how do you feel? Would this be in contention for Game of the Year 2021?
I think if this had came out soon enough and made this year's Game Awards, this hands down would have taken the Game of the Year compared to everything else that was on there. Especially, It Takes Two took it, and this takes that multiplayer to the next level with an almost next level of what Halo is. I think it could take next year's, but do I think it will? No, just because the campaign's going to come and go. This is at the end of a year. This is December. By the time the next one rolls around, you're already going to have Elden Ring. You're going to have Horizon.
Hopefully Elden Ring.
I don't know if God of War comes out next year. If they had delayed that to the year after that, you might have games like Senua's Sacrifice come out next year. You're gonna have all these other games that are gonna be fresher in your memory than what Halo is gonna be.
Yeah, because when you have a game come out at the end of the prior year and it competes for the next year, people just kind of forget, and it's always what's freshest in their mind. That's why a lot of good, solid AAA titles generally come out like around fall.
I think it'll be nominated.
So I hope there's no way it shouldn't be. And if it came out this year, this thing did something that a lot of its competitors didn't do. This thing had two separate components: the multiplayer online and then its campaign, that everybody's rating, generally speaking, around an 8 to a 10. Now you compare it to Call of Duty this year, where Call of Duty has really good multiplayer, but it's getting hacked. Nobody really cared for the campaign. Battlefield came out, it had no modes, it had nothing to do, there was no substance in it. There's even look at like Forza. Forza's an online, has a campaign and it's got an online feature, but no one's playing the arcade. There's nothing to do in it. This thing has two juggernaut things that make one excellent game. So there's no doubt in my mind that if this thing would have came out this year, it would have won.
For sure.
There's nothing to say it shouldn't have. And
it won the player's voice for the Game Awards.
It did win that. As far as next year goes, that's going to be the tricky part, because is it going to hold up? Are people still going to be talking about Halo Infinite come, September? Are people still going to be like, oh yeah, the new modes are coming out, there's a new this, there's a new that? Is it going to hold up? If they're smart, they're already working on that, because this would have potential, I think, if they can do it right, to still last into 2022 and at least be in the conversation. Whether or not God of War or Horizon come in and sweep it, because we don't know, those games could blow this out of the water. But it's at least got to be in the conversation.
It's the year of the ring, baby.
The year of the Elden Ring, yeah, definitely. So I know we went on a long bit about Halo, but I mean, we've got to talk about the campaign. This is Microsoft's mascot, baby.
I love too. Someone put like they're like, hey, it said 343 right now. And it's like Joe Rogan interviewing Conor McGregor, and then he snatches the mic. He's like, "Hey, the king is back, motherfuckers!"
Nice,
I love that meme. It was so fucking funny.
Love it. So, guys, if you have started to play it, jump down in the comments and let us know. Let us know if we missed anything. Maybe we glossed over something too fast, but we do got to keep the show moving. So.